The Cerebral Entertainment Podcast.
3, 2, 1, and go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to yet another riveting edition of the Cerebral Entertainment Podcast. I am James, and with me, as always, is my good friend Colt.
In rare
How's it
fashion,
going, bud?
in rare fashion in Zoom land today.
Yes, in Zoom land today. How are you going to do this? Are we going to be okay? We're used to like sitting about 2-3 feet apart, facing each other in the studio where you are currently at, but I am currently in my little office here.
I mean, it's basically the same thing,
it's
though,
going to
right?
be different.
I mean, I'm staring at you. I'm looking at you right in the face. So I think it's
We're talking.
Yeah, that's all that people really care about, right?
Right. Let me ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
Have you ever thought about this? Okay. Your fingers have fingertips, but your toes don't have toe tips. Yet you can tiptoe, but not tip finger.
That doesn't make any sense. Don't like it.
It does, though. Think
Yeah,
about
it does. It does. I have thought about that, actually.
Have you?
And then I stopped thinking about it because it was blowing my mind.
I had never thought about it. Lo and behold, of course, guess where I found it? On a meme on social media. I don't know. I just thought it was very interesting. So I wanted to see if I could capture your imagination with that bit of.
I mean, who says we don't have toe tips?
Have you ever heard the term toe tip?
No, but
Unless
that doesn't
you're
mean we don't
tiptoeing?
have them, right?
I mean, apparently we do, because could you, in fact, tiptoe if you didn't have tips on your toe?
Good point. See?
And I think it's obvious that there are tips to each one of those, things dang on off your feet. So, yeah, just an interesting thought. Another interesting thing I came across, and you and I kind of talked about this at the onset when we first started talking today, but the smart toilet. Tell me what you know about the smart toilet.
I know it's supposed to like actually track your health, correct? Like it takes pictures and things like from inside the toilet to check your poop and see if you're healthy. I feel like this is going to be an Apple thing. Kind of like the Apple Watch. It's going to be the Apple toilet.
Right.
You know, Apple's going to have everything, right? They're going to own everything.
Yeah.
And they're going to have every different way of checking every aspect of our health before it's over with.
Right. It'll be on your Apple Health app on your phone. Your poop will also be there, right?
And pictures.
And pictures, I guess.
But like this,
I guess that's a thing.
This is actually supposed to be to where it actually it puts it in a file to where when you go to the doctor, they have this stuff.
Yeah, right. Someone who is well versed and educated in detecting problems with poo and the pooper, they will be able to look at this and say, hey, you may have a problem. We want to check out and do more tests. But
so here's my overall question. How long before hackers who have weird fetishes are hacking toilets?
Yes, I'm going to get to that. First, let me do a little bit more reading, okay? It says here, because this is a real thing, right? This is no joke.
Sure. I know.
A team of researchers at Stanford University developed a prototype smart toilet with 4 cameras that can identify users based on their anal print. Okay.
Wow.
Now this is from Vice. I don't know if you follow Vice on Facebook. I do. And sometimes they just have some real gems, and this is one of them. It goes on to say, your butthole is like a snowflake. No two are exactly alike. Okay.
Okay.
So each user of the toilet is identified through their fingerprint and the distinctive features of their anoderm, the researchers, right? And the data are securely stored and analyzed in an encrypted cloud server.
Did you do that, or did it say that?
I did that, but I couldn't pass it up. I could not say that. So here's the deal, right? So you have 4 cameras. First of all, and we'll get to the hacker thing in a minute, but are you comfortable knowing that there's 4 cameras staring at your butthole recording what is going on, all the information while you're taking a dump. Is that something that you're going to be able, is that going to settle well with you?
I don't know that it matters to me. Like,
okay.
I mean, that's just, it's one of those things like it feels like it could be like an invasion of privacy. Like if there was just a random camera in a toilet in a JCPenney bathroom toilet, at that point, it's, you know, an invasion of privacy. But if it's in my home and it's connected to my hospital file, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I feel okay. I feel like in this scenario, I have nothing to hide. Right.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does to me. Right.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of nervous pooers who can't even poo if they think like someone is going to creep up next to the door even, or, you know,
now listen,
they can't poop in public places. You know, they
have a
lot of
huge
trouble.
difference here. There's a huge difference here.
Is there? I mean,
I think so, because I don't care what's going on like in the toilet, but I care about if somebody's going to walk in on me because then it's the rest of my body, not like underneath my butt.
True. That's true. I mean, you're just seeing that snowflake that you sit on all the time, right? That's the only thing that's going to be visible, and then what comes out of it. But I mean, when it comes to private things on me, I would have to say that my bunghole is probably like the number one thing that is private, just by proxy. I don't feel like you know, I don't have a phobia about showing it or anything.
Right.
It's just that it's never out there and available for anybody. It would be the absolute last thing. And but so now I have this camera that's pointed right at it, 4 cameras to be exact, pointed right at it and monitoring my health through the fecal matter that is coming out.
So you said 4 cameras. Did you make that up, or is that actually how many in there? That's how many in there?
It's according to Vice.
Okay, because you got to think like there's more things in the toilet at that time that it's going to be seeing as well, not just your butt. So then it gets a little more across the privacy thing.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to capture some other things that happen to be in the vicinity while that's going on. So yeah, you're right. So, and one of the comments on this post, because some comments are just gold. I look at comments just as much as I look at posts, probably more sometimes. I don't open everything I see, but a lot of times I still read the comments because A, you can find out what the article actually said without having to open the stupid thing up and look at ads. And B, sometimes I just don't like giving them that clickbait satisfaction, you know, but it still piques my curiosity a little bit. So I go to the comments. The other reason why I do that though, is because the comments are just fantastic. And one comment was just simply said, "What a great time to be alive." But which was a joke, but if you think about it, who would have ever thought? You know, we do have smart refrigerators, which is actually pretty awesome. Of course, we have smart televisions. You know, they have smart washers and dryers. Why not a smart toilet, right? So it just makes sense. But like you, one of the first things I thought of is a hacker. I'm kind of fearful of hackers when it comes to even my refrigerator. I don't know why. I just don't want, who knows what they could do? Who knows what kind of, you know, someone who's creative, which hackers are. I don't know what kind of information they could use from that. And I don't know. I don't know. So the hacking situation.
I'm more worried about them just like making ice cubes shoot out of my fridge in the middle of the night or something.
Just to kind of mess with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
That would creep me out.
And I would hate to look on my social media one day and find out that my smart toilet had been hacked and they were displaying all that, which, you know, at the same time, I really wouldn't care. I mean, I don't know why someone would want to do that, but like you said earlier too, someone could fetishize it. And just the fact that could happen, you know, with anything smart. And that's the thing, we are losing so much privacy in the name of convenience. And in this case, you know, health, you know, we're so concerned with our healthy poo, we're willing to stick cameras down there and monitor it. You know, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, if there is one, but It's just kind of crazy. Think about it. I mean, I thought we'd be landing on Mars by now and flying in cars, but no, we have cameras looking at our poo. So who would have thought?
Good point.
So speaking of poo and digestive problems, milk. Let me ask you something. Do you drink milk? Do you drink a lot of milk?
The only milk I drink anymore is almond milk, and it's still kind of rare. Like if I decide I want like a bowl of cereal or something, I'll throw in some almond milk. Or if I want to make a shake or something, sometimes I'll throw in some almond milk, but I don't do regular milk anymore.
Okay. Why is that?
Health wise, just regular milk just isn't healthy for you. It's really not, even though it's been portrayed for years and years and years that it is. Like when I was a kid, milk was my go-to drink. All I drank was milk. I would go through a gallon of milk in 2 days. That's literally how much milk I would drink all the time. And my parents never told me any different. Like they probably thought it was a good thing. Oh yeah, milk has calcium. Milk makes you, have big and strong bones and this, that, and the other. And nowadays I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I wonder why I was fat when I was a kid. That's exactly why. You know how many grams of sugar are in a gallon of milk? And I was going through it like every 2 days.
Right.
It's insane.
So the sugar factor is really what like sent you over the edge as far as the healthy components of milk, because I do think that milk, as far as I know, does have calcium, right? Calcium helps the bones, especially in your developmental years, right? So I think it does have some benefits like that. But what we're going to get into is the benefits versus the consequences.
Yeah, I would like to see like how much calcium is actually in a glass of milk compared to, could I just go buy over the counter calcium, tablets at Walmart and take those and be better off? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Sure. And in most cases, like you can take vitamins to supplement anything, right? Vitamin C, if because maybe you're not eating enough oranges or whatever, right? And vitamin D also is in milk, but you supplement with vitamin D in case you don't get enough sunlight, right? But they always say that the natural form in foods and drinks is always the best way to get your vitamins and nutrients, right? Have you heard that?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I assume that people do stick with milk, even though it has the sugar content. I think the health benefits for a lot of people, myself included, up until more recently, they feel like that drinking milk is a healthy option. And not only do we feel like it's a healthy option, schools are mandated, lest they lose federal funding, to have milk. And as you remember, like I do as a kid, you had milk at school, and you had the option of white or chocolate. I went with chocolate. I wasn't a big milk drinker as a kid. I became a milk drinker later. But it's mandated. So there's this push. And one of the reasons why, at least, there's this push is because milk and milk products have been effectively promoted by the United Marketing Plan with a budget in excess of $165 million a year. So why is there such a push? It kind of reminds me of, we grew up, at least back, way back in the day. I remember when fat was the devil, right? Everything, you had to watch your fat. Don't eat fatty foods. It's going to cause you all kinds of cardiac, conditions. It's going to clog up your heart, this and that, which there's still some truth to that. You got to be careful with your saturated fats.
Yeah, I was going to say, it depends on the kind of fat you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. We didn't back then. I don't remember mono or monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated. I didn't remember those terms.
Right.
It was just fat. Fat was the devil. I do remember that.
Yeah. It was easier to lump fat, just the word fat, into its own, category. It was just easier to do that for people. Yeah.
It was a boogeyman. And, you want to simplify the message for us small people. So you just say fats are bad.
Right.
And it come out later, which I don't have a source for this off the top of my head, or, prepared for this conversation, but it come out later that the sugar industry was behind this. So that the sugar industry couldn't just come out and say, sugar's good for you. eat more sugar, because that wasn't going to fly. I mean,
Right.
I don't think anyone was that stupid. But what they did was they turned it around and casted fade on fats. And so they had this big, I don't know if they lobbied, the government or the particular agencies that are responsible, one of the alphabet soup people, those agencies. I don't know if they lobbied like the FDA, for instance, whether they lobbied and said, hey, we want to throw shade on the fat industry and promote sugar, or at least take the focus off of sugar, right? This is kind of what this reminds me of with milk, except they're not really throwing fade on anyone. They're just saying, hey, because it does have some health benefits. I do believe that. What I didn't realize is that, and this is coming from the nutritionstudies.org, it says there is compelling scientific evidence that our consumption of daily products is strongly associated with the following conditions. Childhood onset diabetes, right? Type 1. That makes sense, right? Like you said, chock full of sugar.
Right.
So that's, but how about this one? Constipation. Now, this is where the smart toilet would come in handy, because it would be able to see that we're not pooping. It could send us a notification on my phone that says, hey, James, you haven't pooped lately. we're getting worried about you down here.
Hey, but before we go on, so that was a question that popped in my mind a while ago when we were talking about the smart toilet too, is that you don't always just poop at home, right? So if your smart toilet's at home, what if you poop for a week, like your daily poop is at work?
Right.
And are you going to get a notification saying, hey man, you haven't pooped in 5 days here? And then
go see your doctor.
Yeah.
It's a great question, because
what'd be funny too is if just like it's connected to your phone, and say if you're one of those people, like everyone who is on their phone while they're pooping and they're scrolling through Facebook or whatever, and you've been on the toilet for like 45 minutes. What if you get a notification like on Netflix that says, are you still pooping? Instead of like, are you still watching? It's like, are you still pooping? It's like, don't ask me this again, or ask me later, or something like that.
Yeah. Great questions. I don't have good answers, because that's a great point, because I don't poop until I usually get my first round of caffeine. And then it's like, I'm pretty regular after that. But I would love to be one of those guys who poop first thing in the morning. Like, I know people, they get up and before they take a shower, they poop like clockwork. Yeah. Like, that would be so awesome. I wish I could do that. Never been that kind of pooer, but who would have thought?
But is there any is there any worse feeling than taking a shower and then having to poop?
It sucks, right?
It does.
I'm like, even though I'm still clean, I feel unclean. At that point, I feel unclean, and that's terrible. Right after you take a shower, it's just not fair.
Right.
I'm about to spiderweb again, but I'm going to keep moving on because
I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yeah. Ear infections. Who would have thought that milk caused ear infections and sinus congestion, skin problems, including rashes, dermatitis, eczema, hives, and acne? Now, I knew that gluten products caused eczema. We put my daughter on a gluten-free diet for a long time because her grandfather on her mother's side has gluten intolerance as well. And when he eats gluten, he breaks out in eczema. And for the longest time, he didn't know what was going on, right? But so we tried that with my daughter. After he found out how to mitigate that eczema, we put my daughter Kayla on a gluten-free diet and cleared it right up. Apparently milk does the same thing for some people, because we've all heard of, lactose intolerance, obviously. Right. And I was surprised by the numbers. I don't know if it's in this article or not, but like, I believe it said African Americans, it was like in the 70 percentile, they have some like some factor of lactose intolerance. It's like, wow, that's amazing. That's a high number.
Which I mean, I don't know. I wonder if you can get become lactose intolerant over time of not really having much dairy. Like, I wonder if you get away from it for long enough that your body, when you try to eat it again, like me, I don't really drink milk anymore. I'll drink some almond milk, but that's about it, which I guess almond milk doesn't have lactose in it, right? I wouldn't think so.
I don't believe so, no.
It's
also infused with calcium, by the way.
Yeah, I'll eat some ice cream every once in a while, and that normally doesn't make my stomach feel great. So I'm assuming that if you stay away from lactose for quite a while, that your body, if you try to take it in again, your body's like, dude, what is this, and why are you doing this to me?
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah.
Because you're basically programming your system to, process certain things.
Right.
And if you don't process those things for a while, then
Mm-hmm.
I think your body probably acclimates to what you're feeding it.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. And here we go with digestive disturbance. I think this is probably the most common, at least to my knowledge, and the most prevalent. Maybe the same thing, but the most pervasive, maybe. Digestive disturbance, including irritable bowel syndrome and Crohn's disease. I didn't realize it was that significant, but
Mm-hmm.
that's some pretty significant disorders just from drinking milk.
Yeah.
Arthritis and joint pain, joint pain.
How many?
Arthritis and joint pain.
Four times, 5 times? How many? How
It's-
many do we need?
I'll get it out. I'll get it out one of these times. And even list cancer. I mean, come on. And then 10, obesity. Now, I don't know, these are studies, right? So studies are studies, and we talk about this a lot. If you want to manipulate numbers to confirm your preconceived notion, then, chances are you're going to be able to do that. But I think anecdotally, like you were saying, and I've known people who are very much lactose intolerant and who've had things go wrong with them, like with the gluten. I don't think it's a stretch to say that milk probably causes, at least most, if not all, of these disorders. And number 10 is obesity. Go figure.
Right.
Just another quick story. When I was a younger man, I was in my early 20s, and I'd left home, of course, when I was 19, and went out on my own eventually. And then I got into some unhealthy practices, we'll just say, and wasn't taking good care of myself, wasn't eating right, lost a bunch of weight. I was down, I'm 6 foot tall. And at that time I was down to about 160 pounds. And so it was unhealthy skinny, right? And so I eventually came back home for a while, like I needed to. I needed to come back and regroup and reset myself. And I was fortunate to have parents who allowed me to do that because they could see the dire straits that I was in. And my buddy said, look, you're too skinny and it's gross. I was like, okay, fair enough. But he says, if you want to gain weight, I'll tell you what I did. You drink a gallon of whole milk a day. And so I was like, okay. So I did. Mm-hmm. And in a matter of about 4 or 5 months, I went from around 160 to my heaviest ever at that time, which was like, I think I was 205. And it happened within that short span of time because of milk, whole milk.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was drinking it like it was going out of style because I was trying to repair myself, but I kind of overdid it. So I know that milk can definitely cause obesity.
Yeah. Bodybuilders call that the go mad diet, gallon of milk a day. And I mean, a lot of, I've never personally done it, but I've seen people, swear by, a half a gallon of chocolate milk whenever you get done at the gym because it's got sugar in it, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. After you get done lifting, a half a gallon of milk is a lot, but and then of course, when you add the chocolate into it, that's going to add some more sugar and things like that too. Plus the calcium, but also plus milk does have a lot of protein in it too. So you kind of get all those effects at once, but that just sounds horrible. Like your stomach has to be so torn up.
I guess. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you say that because of all the sugar? Is that why you think it's so torn up? Because I don't really have.
Probably.
Okay, no, I don't really have adverse reactions to milk otherwise, other than it will make me fat. But I don't suffer a lot of those other things like digestive issues, at least not that I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking that because it just seems like it would be bad for your digestive system. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't done it. I haven't personally done it, so I don't know for a fact that it's, rough. But I don't know. Like me trying to do it right now, I guarantee you it would be terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would never do that again, by the way. And I don't drink a whole lot of milk nowadays. I do still like my cereal. I'm going to be honest with you. I love breakfast cereal, specifically Raisin Bran Crunch and mini wheats, frosted mini wheats. Frosted mini wheats is like, in a lot of respects, my dessert. and it's also, sometimes my meal.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's a great for me. I give no medical or nutritional advice for the most part on this podcast. And what I'm about to say is definitely not advice. but one of the great refeeds for me is a big heaping bowl of frosted mini wheats after a workout.
Okay.
Makes me feel great. But
Okay.
I'm not saying I could probably make more gains if I did things, differently, but it just feels so good and it tastes so good. It's almost like euphoric. But speaking of refeed,
sounds to me like you just have a sweet tooth after you get out of the gym.
I think so, maybe.
And there's worse things out there. I mean, I assume they probably have like a lot of fiber and stuff in them.
Yeah, they do.
So you got that going for you.
The Raisin Bran Crunch is really good. Not that it's good. It has way too much sugar. Don't get me wrong. And plus, if you're using milk, bam, you got that much more sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But the raisins are good for you as long as you don't have blood sugar issues. You got to watch that.
Right.
And then the fiber in Raisin Bran, period. I eat like the crunch because it's a little tastier. But the fiber is, I know it works. Trust me. I won't get in, back into the smart toilet.
Gee, I wonder how you know.
Right. Because I've got the app and I've got the smart toilet. Not really, but that
actually creeps me out because I used your toilet the last time I was at your house. And I did not know this. That's something you got to tell people, man. Like you got to have a sign on the door to the bathroom or something.
Don't worry, it scans for me. It knows me.
Does it? Okay.
Remember, it's like a snowflake. But getting back to refeed for a second, we keep gravitating back to that smart toilet conversation. We probably will for the rest of the day. In a refeed, though, you mentioned drinking a glass of chocolate milk could be, a good refeed, right? You're refeeding your carbs back into your body after a hard workout. Do you feel like, though, that it's better to eat something, I say fibrous, something with some sustenance to it, or does it matter? Can you just drink something like chocolate milk to refeed and it pretty much does the same thing? Do you have any experience or knowledge?
So the biggest difference is going to be if you're just drinking something, it's going to digest a lot faster.
Okay.
But like if you're, so like, is your question like if I go to the gym and I lift and I get home, do I take a protein shake with some milk in it, or do I eat a steak? Is that what you're asking? Like what the difference is between the two?
Yeah, basically, or if you're just looking, because that's more protein based.
Yeah, but whole food's always going to, for a lack of a better term, stick to your bones a little better. You're always going to be able to. I think you're going to get the biggest. I think you would notice a bigger difference if you're eating like a whole steak or a whole chicken or something like that when you got out of the gym. But if you're looking at something that's going to digest fast and is going to get into your bloodstream a lot faster, it's just like, a lot of times I'll take with my pre-workout, I'll throw in a scoop of protein. Reason being is because while I'm in the gym, that's digesting and it's getting into my bloodstream. Well, say I'm doing biceps and triceps that day. While that's getting into my bloodstream, it's also going to the areas that are getting pumped up. You know what I'm saying? So like you're forcing blood into certain areas of your body while you're in the gym. So the goal is to, if this stuff is digesting while you're in the gym and it's getting into your bloodstream, you're forcing blood into a certain area. So that's my idea behind it, right? If I were to eat a steak right before I go into the gym, I don't think I'm going to get those same effects, right? Because it's going to take so much longer for that steak to digest in my stomach. However, the protein content, I don't know. I would say if it's immediate right after you get out of the gym, I would say your shake is going to be your best bet. But throughout the day, if you need to do a shake as like a filler, like if you just don't have the time to get in a meal here or there and you want to throw in a shake instead, that's fine. But I try not to make that a habit. I will every once in a while, just if it's on a quick on the go kind of thing. But if I can chow down on some steak or some chicken or shrimp or something like that, I'm doing that instead throughout the day, not necessarily right as I'm lifting.
Now, I don't know enough of the science, but I do know enough to know that too much protein can be bad for the kidneys.
Yes, it can.
Is that correct? So
Sure.
it is our protein shakes more of a threat because they digest so quickly, they go through your system so quickly. It's like bam, like it's like a shot of protein streamlined into your system. Is that going to be worse for you than eating that steak as far as the protein on the kidneys?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know.
Okay. All right.
I mean, like I understand the question, but like if you do 2 scoops of protein, you're looking at like probably 50 grams of somewhere around 50 grams of protein, right? You think you're getting that same amount out of a steak? I don't know.
I don't either. I want to say no.
But but I also think that it also has to do with your lifestyle and what you do outside of when you're eating. If you're drinking water all day long and you're getting a gallon and a half of water in a day, I don't think it's going to be near as bad as if you're somebody who's drinking Mountain Dew all day long while you're also, or doing the gallon of milk a day while you're, I don't think those people are going to have it off a lot worse than somebody who's drinking water all day long and is kind of not detoxing, but what I'm saying, like kind of keeping fluids running through and keeping yourself hydrated all day long. I think those people are going to be better off, and it's not going to be that big an issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Your lifestyle surrounding your protein intake, I think will definitely have a direct effect on how your body processes that, specifically your kidneys in this case in point. So very good point. Milk. Back to milk for a second. The problems with milk are numerous, it says. The article goes on. Milk proteins. All dairy products, especially low or non-fat dairy products, contain abundant quantities of milk proteins, and they're most commonly implicated causal factor in promoting the diseases listed above. So there's proteins in milk. Apparently they're not the good ones. And so that was something that was new to me, that educated me, given that this article is correct and the science behind it, of course, is correct. There's also bacterial contamination, and you got to think about it. Of course, it's pasteurized, so I think that probably has, it mitigates most of the problems with bacterial problems in milk.
That just means they got it from a pasture, right? Isn't that what pasteurized means?
Yeah. Look it up. I had a buddy who told me a story. He was watching a documentary, and this has been some time ago. I'm talking probably 15 years ago, maybe not, maybe 13, 14. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He said he was watching this documentary and he never drank milk again after watching this documentary because they were showing these machines. It's not the old milkmaid out there milking the cow anymore. They got these machines that hook up a sucker and it's just, pumping out of this poor cow. He said that was bad enough, but the cow's udder was just raw. It became raw and it started to bleed, and it was bleeding into the milk. It was just this grossness, and there were flies all around it. Factory farming, dairy farming, I would assume is a factory farm, at least to some degree, especially when you've got like automatic milkers. That the process can't be that sanitary, can't be that clean. Right. And they're not looking in any process like that. They're not looking out for your health, right? If it's a factory farm, it's a dairy farm in general, they're milking to make money. Each pull on that udder is another dollar in the bank. Mm-hmm. And so they're trying to get out as much as they can. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that your health and whether or not you think that's gross is not their number one priority. And so bacterial contamination is one of the pitfalls and the problems with milk.
So here's something I hadn't thought about. What exactly is the process to make milk, like the different variants, like whether it's vitamin D or it's 2%, 1% skim milk? What are they actually doing to change it from one to the other? Like, does it start out as basically not start out, but like is milk kind of like vitamin D, and then all of a sudden they kind of take stuff out of it to make it something else? I don't know.
I'm going to start off by saying I have no clue.
Okay.
But what I always have assumed is that you start out with milk basically as it is. I think they add vitamin D to it. I could be mistaken there.
Oh, okay.
But you have milk, and my understanding was they cut it with water. That's what I thought it was. It's like they cut so much of it with water to get, half, and then or 2%, whatever, and then 1% skim.
So what
I could be completely wrong. I have no idea.
So what is, if it says 2% or 1%, what does that exactly mean? 2% what? 1% what?
That's a great question as well. Great question that maybe we can answer.
I really thought you were the milk expert, and you're not getting.
I'm not even close, dude. I brought one article to the table because I thought it was interesting, and you're shooting way outside of my scope here. I mean,
you asked me before the show, what topics you got? Oh, well, this, and this, and then you're like, what about milk? Okay, and here we are.
Hey, I got some good information here. I just don't have all of the information that you would like to know.
I feel like doesn't it seem like that should be common knowledge that we don't know?
You're right. It's a great question.
The only thing that I know is that 1% in skim don't taste as good as 2% in vitamin D. And like when you get to skim, it like you said, if it's cut with water, or if that's even a thing, I don't know. But like if it is, it seems like it's cut with a lot of water, because skim is really thin. And then like the higher you go up, the thicker or creamier that it is. So I don't know.
I agree. And, you could get a taste for any of the above, because once I got real fat on whole milk, I went to, I think maybe 1%, maybe even skim for a while, because that's what my mom and dad actually drank, was skim milk, because I think the fat content is less, maybe. I think it's, in some respects, it's healthier for you. In other respects, you're not getting as much as the vitamins that you would get from regular whole milk. So it says here, I don't know if this is going to explain it or not, but it says reduced fat milk is labeled as 2% milk, which means the milk fat is 2% of the total weight of the milk. Not that an 8-ounce glass of milk contains 2% fat. So the entire gallon has only 2% milk fat. Okay. Now, once again, I don't know enough about the process to really understand what that means. I just know that it's 2% of. Does that mean that whole milk is 100% milk fat? I'm not sure. I have to.
That's also got to be like based off of the serving size too, right? Because everything is based off of serving size.
This is for the entire gallon.
Huh.
The milk fat is 2% of the total weight of the milk, not that an 8-ounce glass. Well, it doesn't say gallon. It just says the total weight of the milk. So I don't know what the original weight is.
Right.
Once again, I don't know.
Huh.
But also another consequence or another a problem with milk is the hormones they put in it. Because in order to maximize milk production, dairy cows are routinely injected with recombinant, is that right? Recombinant, yeah, bovine growth hormone. So this happens with all the animals now too. I mean, when you look at chickens, if I could go back in time and get a chicken breast from 1977, I don't know, just off the top of my head, and you compare it to a chicken breast now, the chicken breasts now are huge, right?
Yeah.
And that's because they're jacking them up with hormones, with steroids or whatever, things like that. They're just unnaturally big. And so they're doing hormones for the cows too, because it increases milk production, right? Milk in any mammal is produced by a hormone that triggers that production.
But
it's
not just specifically for milk though, right? Isn't it also to beef up cows for actually slaughtering them and getting the meat off of them too?
I don't think that they eat dairy cows. I could be wrong.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I think they're just for milking.
Interesting.
But I don't know that for sure. But yeah,
okay.
They jack them up in this case is strictly to produce milk.
Okay.
Because I think one of the reasons that this practice is so bad is because after a dairy cow loses its milking ability, then it's useless.
Gotcha.
Maybe they eat it too. I don't know, but its sole purpose was to produce milk. It's a dairy cow.
Gotcha.
So that's what they're gonna milk that cow. They're gonna milk it until there's nothing left in it, and they're using the hormones to increase the production.
Gotcha.
Once again, they're not worried about our health. They sure aren't worried about the cow's health. right?
Right.
It's all about making that dollar. It's
Right.
about making the money, and they make their money by producing milk.
Mhm.
And so but in the process, though, once again, they're not worried about our health, and those hormones, they don't just disappear inside of the cow somewhere. It is filtered through the milk, just like any other mammal, right?
Right.
If a human female is taking some kind of medication and she's breastfeeding her child, that child is also getting that medicine through her breast milk.
Right.
And so the same things happen with cows, with the hormones, and with number 5 is also antibiotics. So large quantities of antibiotics are given to dairy cattle and may be contributing to the increasing problems of antibiotic resistant strains of bacteria. So a lot of the problems that we're having with our immune systems, as a people, as human beings, could possibly be resulting from this hormone and antibiotics that we are ingesting through dairy cattle.
Right. What's interesting is like you said, if whatever the mother's taking in, like in a human, like whatever a mother's taking in, that kind of stuff, you can go through the breast milk if they're feeding a newborn or something like that. That's why they say, even though you've had the baby, don't drink alcohol, because that still gets into the breast milk and stuff.
Right.
And it's the same way with like the COVID vaccine and stuff like that too. If they say that if the vaccine, if the mother gets the vaccine, that the antibodies will be transferred to the baby through breast milk, which is interesting. Of course, I don't know the science behind that, but I do know we were told that by our baby doctor whenever we were given the opportunity, if we wanted my wife to go ahead and get the vaccine during pregnancy or not. Because I think we've talked about this in the past, but I do have family who, while they were pregnant, they did get vaccinated. Reason being is because they were confident enough that the science proves that, the baby's getting a lot more antibodies through that injection while they're pregnant. We didn't take that route just because for us, there wasn't enough science there to back up doing that. And we just felt, just didn't feel like it was the right move to make at the time. So, but yeah, I just think that's interesting that, hormones and vaccines and all that kind of stuff is transferred through breast milk as well to babies.
How did the doctor that was discussing that with you, you said the doctor discussed that with you as well, right?
Yeah.
How did he or she present that? Did it seem like they were favorable that that she should get the vaccine in order to pass on those antibodies to the child? Or was he like skeptical, or was it just like, this is what it does, do what you want?
So this was still, almost a year ago, just a little under a year ago.
Yeah.
So when we were first asked about it, she basically just said, do you plan on getting, basically said, have you been vaccinated? She said, no. She's like, do you plan on being vaccinated? And she's like, well, she asked what the doctor's thoughts were on it. And she told us straight up, she's like, at this point, I do not feel, she's like, I'm not going to tell you one way or the other what to do. She's like, but I don't feel like the science is there enough to get, to take it while you're pregnant. She's like, I just don't feel like the science is there. She's like, it's totally up to you. And I'm not going to, tell you one way or the other what you should do.
Interesting.
But she was excited whenever she found out that my wife had been vaccinated after she had our baby, because of the breastfeeding aspect, because of the antibodies being able to be transferred to the baby while she was breastfeeding. So I don't really know how she felt. I don't know if she would have been, more excited if we would have gotten it while she was pregnant or not. She just, the way she put it to us was that she didn't think the science was there for us to do it. She said not in a good way or a bad way. She just didn't feel like the science was there.
Well, I can appreciate that too. She was just honest based off of her knowledge and her experience. So she wasn't just trying to push science, just to kind of use you all as a test, as an experiment. So I definitely appreciate that. I still, did she explain any kind of adverse possibilities about the breastfeeding, the antibodies passing through the breast milk? Was there anything at all to worry about?
As far as adverse, meaning like what? Like that something
Any
bad?
any possible consequences to the baby?
She didn't say anything, but I don't know if it's the science is out there right now to know, you know what I mean? It's just the vaccine hasn't been out long enough really to be able to tell, I don't think. Unless there's been, babies who have had major issues just from breastfeeding. I don't know.
Sure.
And to be honest, and this might be conspiracy minded, but even if there were babies who were having issues with it, I don't know that they would let it out in the media that it was COVID vaccine related.
Right. Well, that's part of my suspicions, my problems is that we're just getting information from somebody and you don't know, where they're coming from, what their agenda is, what their experience or perspectives have been to this point. But I would, if I'm you, my mind is eased because she was pretty much skeptical of getting the vaccination while pregnant, but she was excited about the antibodies passing through the breast milk. So that causes me to trust her more. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. Because if she'd have been like, yeah, let's get it while you're pregnant, let's fight this COVID, let's flatten this curve, whatever, that she was going to say to try and encourage you to do that. The fact that she didn't, but then, was different about the breast milk, that puts my mind at ease. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If she would have hardcore been pushing it while she was pregnant, it would almost felt agenda ish.
Right. Yeah.
Like, hey, I don't know how money's funneled when it comes to this kind of stuff, but if she would have been like hardcore, you absolutely need to do this. I 100% recommend doing this while she was pregnant. I would have been more to be like, I don't know, maybe we don't.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But people listen to doctors because they are doctors and they're supposed to be the ones that know. But for a doctor who is supposed to know, who tells us it just hasn't been here long enough for me to be able to tell you that I 100%, it makes me think that she is really looking out for the well-being of my wife and the baby in that scenario versus just saying, get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, through all of this, I have never spoken with like my actual doctor, to see what he actually thinks about the vaccine. I would be curious to know. I haven't had a checkup since then, I guess, since COVID started. But listening to people like Fauci, for me, just causes a lot of mistrust, because it's not a personal, like he's not sitting there right in front of you and he's not the one actually caring for you and checking your labs, he knows your history and things like that.
Right.
He's more of a politician to me than anything. He's like the current rock star, and especially, did you see that thing where he authorized the use of some dogs? I think they were beagles, where they took out, well, first of all, they took out their vocal cords. And I need to reference this. So this is just anecdotal right now, but go look it up. If you're listening to this, go look it up. Look up Dr. Fauci and dogs and see if this pops up. Because the NIH actually paid for the removal of the dog's vocal cords so that the experimenters couldn't hear them like yelping and crying and stuff. Because what they did was they drugged these dogs and put their heads in this thing. They had them laying down and they put their heads in this thing. It's an enclosure, and they let some kind of ants or something eat their faces as some kind of an experiment. And this has something to do with Dr. Fauci. And I hope this wasn't complete BS or I'm just wasting my time here. But I don't know. I've seen it in a couple different spots now, which how sometimes rumors and misinformation can spread like wildfire. But aside from that, because that's pretty crazy. Aside from that, though, it's gotten out that he, in some way or another, he authorized the gain of function research at the Wuhan lab, which he lied about. He's lied. They flip-flopped about a lot of things, and it really muddies the water. So I know we're stepping on territory that we've already kind of discussed, even last episode with Ace, about how the big problem is not even the vaccine or the virus itself. It's the mistrust that we have of those who are telling us what to do.
Right.
It's a really big problem, and now it's getting even worse, right?
I mean,
because
yeah, and I know what you're going to get into, but you know, it's the mistrust is just getting worse now because now it's people's livelihoods that are at stake because of this.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. What we're devolving into now with this mandate, because President Biden himself is trying to mandate, he is mandating that as much of the population as he can get control over must take this vaccine. And so they are overriding, as the government, they're overriding bodily autonomy, the freedom of choice of what goes in a person's body. And they're using their livelihood to do that. And it's very snaky. I don't care which side of the vaccine debate that you lie on. The way that they're doing this is outright it's crazy. I'm not even going to drop any kind of terms, but it's just nuts. I'll drop that term, and crazy and insane, because they're saying if you don't take this, you can't work here. You can't do this job. And the goal is to get as many people as possible. And I know it's coming to the public school system soon. That's going to be the next mandate. I don't know about the next one, but it's coming down the pike. I guarantee it, because they're getting this this vaccine authorized for ages 5 through 11 now. And so that's definitely going to be coming down the pike. But all these workers are stepping out. They're walking off, and they're protesting. We've got nurses, and their biggest chief complaint that I've heard that really makes a lot of sense. Once again, no matter what side of the vaccine debate you're on, they were the essential workers, right? They were the ones on the front lines. When people got sick, when people got COVID, these nurses and doctors, I think this is mostly nurses that's dealing with this right now, but they were the ones that cared for these people, right? They had to see the respiratory distress, and they had to see the death. And they went through this because there was no vaccine yet. Now they're being told, you don't have a job anymore because you won't take the vaccine. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is something that I was told, and I don't know, I don't have any science to back it up or anything like that. So if anybody's listening, sorry, I might be talking out of my ass, but I was told by a doctor that their thought about this whole thing is that the reason why they're doing this for doctors and nurses and hospitals is because Biden is trying to put a bill through that states that anyone who is insured through Medicare or Medicaid cannot be treated by someone who is not vaccinated. So what that means is if someone who's insured through Medicare or Medicaid goes into the hospital and gets treated by a doctor, and then that doctor was not vaccinated, now the hospital is liable for that doctor. And that's a lot of people that the hospital is not going to be able to treat if that's the case, if they don't force everyone to get vaccinations.
That's a new twist I haven't heard.
Yeah.
So follow the money there. I think this is one of the more generous, more non-conspiratorial ways to look at this, because it is in fact following money. So if the government officials, Fauci and all of his other people, if they really believe that the vaccine is going to minimize hospitalizations and minimize the use of the ICU and the use of ventilators and things like that, which costs a lot of money. COVID precautions cost a lot of money. I can tell you that firsthand. The type of PPE that you have to have on site, the type of protocols you have to have, and the drain it is on staffing, it does cost a lot of money. So Medicaid, Medicare, of course, is that bill is fitted by the government. So if they can minimize the cost by vaccinating people, making sure they're vaccinated, then it's going to save them a lot of money.
Right.
I still have a question as to what does that have to do with a doctor or nurse being vaccinated or not for them to care for that person? Where does that come in?
That I'm not sure. So you mean, why is it important that somebody who is insured through Medicare or Medicaid, that the person's treating them is vaccinated? What the importance is there? Is that what?
Because my initial logic is it makes sense if I'm a government official and I'm not some whack job, some conspiratorial jackass who's got this other agenda in mind, which, that's always on the table. But if it's just about saving money, right? And I believe the vaccine will cost the government less than those who are on the government dole via Medicaid and Medicare. They're beneficiaries of those insurances. Then it makes sense that I want to vaccinate all of those people because I'm paying by me. And this is one of the problems with the government. They think that, the money is theirs. Taxpayers are footing the bill for their hospitalizations, for their ICU stays, for their ventilators, and so on and so forth. That makes sense. But why the doctors and nurses? Like if I am a nurse and I am not vaccinated and I go in and I treat people, I end up getting COVID and getting sick, that's on me, right? I'm not on Medicaid. Nurses, they do pretty decent as far as money goes.
Yeah.
They do okay. And so they usually have a little bit better insurance than what, actually it's kind of a bad place to be in, kind of a spider web here, but they're kind of in that in-between place oftentimes where you can't afford really, really good insurance, but you also, they won't let you be on Medicaid because you make too much money. Right. Anyway, the point is the government's not fitting that bill. The taxpayers aren't fitting that bill. Yeah. So why do they care about that? And that's a problem with a lot of the things that they're doing right now.
It may just be part of the control thing. They can control the Medicare and Medicaid part of this. So, if it's another way that they can force people to get the vaccine, like they want everybody to get it anyways, then maybe that's where it ends. It's just as simple as that. Maybe
that's what I was afraid you'd say.
Maybe, maybe they're not like worried that somebody who doesn't get the vaccine is going to pass on COVID to someone or anything like that. But that's just like what we talked about before. Just because you have the vaccine doesn't mean you can't get it, and doesn't mean you can't pass it to someone else. And it may not be as bad for you because you got vaccinated, but that doesn't mean it's still not going to be bad for the person who didn't get vaccinated. Mm-hmm. So like you said, I know it was what you was afraid I was going to say, but it might just be as simple as control.
I guess I'm just looking for I'm hoping for another answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're using Medicaid, Medicare dollars to control. And this is a problem with these programs. Because if like say in my industry, the skilled nursing industry, it's Medicaid funded and Medicare as well, but highly Medicaid in my realm of things. And because they fund it, then they control it. And the mandate has been passed also to the skilled nursing industry as well, which I knew was coming. I knew it was coming. So it's a matter of them being able to take away your dollars, and who wants that? Because once again, they're taking away your livelihood. And
are you seeing a lot of pushback from people in the skilled nursing facilities who don't want to get the vaccine?
We're not there yet. They've set a late November deadline. I hope it gets pushed further down the road so we can kick that can. There's potential for catastrophe. There's potential for absolute catastrophe, and there's no answer for it. There's no solution. There's a shortage of healthcare workers right now, anyway, across the board. I've talked with the mother of someone who works in a local hospital, and she said that the ICU is not full exactly. It's only as full as how well they can staff it, because there are staffing ratios that are mandated. And it's not that every bed in the hospital is full. That's not the case. That they can only fill
your ratio is big enough per, patients per one nurse or whatever. Yeah. That's
correct. And so they don't tell you that. They don't tell you those things.
Yeah.
They don't tell you a lot of things, or they, whoever they are, they also misdirect a lot of information. So, and we see that coming down the pike, and there's going to be some disastrous results. And from what I can tell, there's no answer coming from the government as well. It's almost like they're trying to break the system, and there have been a lot of people who have shouted that for a while, and a lot of people scoff at that and say, oh, it's conspiracy theory. Then give me another answer. I'm looking. I want it. I want hope.
The weird thing to me too is that you have like, so they put it out that, or not too long ago, that they want any company who has more than 100 employees, they want them to be forced to get vaccinated, or they want the company to pay to have a company come in and test their employees however many times a week or whatever.
Which will cost out the wazoo, so they know what companies are going to do.
Exactly.
Right?
So they know they're either going to let people go to where they get under 100 employees, or
Right.
they're going to force people to get vaccinated, which is going to force people to quit or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is like, okay, you tell everyone, every company, every person at your company has to be vaccinated. Then you have a bunch of people walk out and quit. Then they get unemployment. So like the government's still going to shovel out unemployment for a lot of people who quit their job. So I don't understand that. But the problem is unemployment only pays out a certain amount of money. So I understand why the government thinks they have the upper hand on this, because, if you make $20 an hour, you're only going to make $300 a week on unemployment. You can't afford to walk out the door, so they do technically have the upper hand in that case, but it's still weird, right? That it's like they're still giving unemployment to people who walk.
In my opinion, it's the same thing. It's governmental funneled dollars. If you're getting unemployment and that's how you're surviving, guess what? You want to keep those unemployment benefits coming, you're going to have to get vaccinated, son. Because we control you. You have nothing without me. Right. You have nothing. And that's what's happening. They are funneling everybody they're herding the sheep, right? Getting a little conspiratorial here. But I think in essence, you can see this happening. Edward Snowden on the Russell Brand show. I just saw this the other day on his YouTube. If you're not watching Russell Brand on YouTube, you should be. He's got it going on.
Really?
He puts on a great, and he's got a podcast it's a pay for podcast, but man, you can get enough from his YouTube clips. I'm telling you, it's fantastic. He had Edward Snowden on not too long ago, and Edward Snowden clearly said that the greatest conspiracies are right in front of your face right now. He went on to say that like the satanic rituals that we've talked about in conspiracy theory circles for a long time, about government officials who are, drinking children's blood and eating babies and satanic rituals of all kinds. He goes, that sounds in a sense, sexier, right? It's more compelling. But the greatest conspiracies are the ones that are actually happening right in front of your face. So follow the money, see what the mandates are. Why is it up to the government to mandate that people with 100 employees or more, what does that have to do with anything? It's just a matter of control. Now, here's one difference. Those companies, a mandate is not a law. Not that he won't put something into law. I'm sure that's probably bound to happen. But a mandate's not a law. A company can refuse to do that. As long as there's no government money tied to that company, they really don't have much of a say, even though the bigger corporation that you got, the more you're already tied into the government, the more that probably they're going to have something to hold against you. But if there's any money whatsoever, and this goes for the states as well, the federal government funnels all kinds of money into each state, right? If the states don't comply with what Joe Biden is saying, bam, you're going to get your funds cut off. And this works with a lot of other practices as well.
Which doesn't it seem like Florida's on the line of doing that? It seems like Florida's pushing back harder than anybody else on all this stuff.
Florida's given a big fat middle finger to this whole thing, and they're leading the charge. Now, granted, their numbers have been really high too. Their COVID positive numbers have been through the roof, but you're talking about like the threat of illness. You're talking about fear. You're talking about fear, the fear of illness, the fear of death, the fear of losing my money, the fear of losing my job. They're using fear. And Florida's saying, you know what, we're going to take our chances, right? And they're giving a big fat middle finger. At the same time, Texas is giving a big fat middle finger to the abortion, to Roe versus Wade. They're saying, this is what we're going to do. They're actually, which is kind of strange, but it's interesting. They're basically deputizing citizens to be able to sue someone in the court of law if they found out that they got an abortion, which I don't really care for that so much. It sounds a little bit, communist.
Hang on,
A little
what?
communisty to me.
Deputizing. Okay, tell me that one more time.
Deputizing. I stole that word from, I think it was ABC News. But basically what you can do in Texas is if you know someone got an abortion, you can take them to court and sue them if you can prove it. And if you win the case, you get like a bounty. Yeah. So it's like this. Yeah. They're you can tell on someone if they're getting an abortion and maybe even get paid for it. So very, very strange stuff. But they're giving a big fat middle finger to Roe versus Wade. And it's got a lot of people shaking in their boots. Just like Florida's giving a big fat middle finger to these mandates. And the governor there, DeSantis, he told people in the state, it's like, do not comply. It's like, if I find out that you're mandating masks or mandating vaccines, I'm coming after you. Right. And it's crazy, man. It's like Wild West stuff. But once again, no matter what side of the vaccine debate you're on, don't we need a little bit of pushback right now? Or are we just going to all, fold? I don't care if you're vaccinated, if you're not, if whatever. Can you see what's going on? Can you see the grab for control? Can you see that's happening? It's happening right in front of our eyes, and people are just bowing to it because they're coming after your pocketbook and they're coming after your health. And next, it's getting down a little rabbit hole here, but they're coming after your kids. They're going to force you to vaccinate your kids, or I don't know what's going to be the consequence. You're going to homeschool your kids. A lot of people are. A lot of people are already doing that. They're like, screw this. I'm not leaving my kids in this mess. So it's crazy. I'm not, once again, I'm not talking anything about pro or anti-vaccination. I'm not, I know COVID is real. Speaking of, I've had COVID twice, just got through with my bout again.
Yeah. But before we get into that though, you're talking about, isn't there certain vaccinations that all kids have to go to school in the first place anyways? So
there are
probably just going to be one of those where this has to be thrown into the mix too. But I just wonder, like, say in 5 years when my kid is going to start kindergarten, I just wonder if that's still going to be a thing or if it's going to be gone. You know what I mean? Like, just 5 years is just such a long time. Now, I understand that 2 weeks to flatten the curve turned into where we are now. I get that too, but it just seems like all this could possibly be gone in like 5 years.
I hope so.
You know what I'm saying? Like we got through everything, and that or it could be disastrous. I don't know.
No, go with your first instinct there, man. I was needing that. I am seriously, I am looking for positive people who can give me real answers though.
Yeah. I can give you positivity. I can give you positivity, but I can't give you real answers.
Positivity is close enough, as long as it's not completely devoid, like as long as it's not counterfactual. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As long as you're not saying that if you can prove me wrong, like if you can give me a different perspective, I'm not just talking to you here, I'm talking to anybody. If you can help shape my perspective to where it's not quite so like dystopian, to where it's not what it looks like to me, I would love it. I would hope so badly that this is all over with ASAP, a year tops, that COVID and the vaccines, we don't need them anymore. COVID's a thing of the past. I'm afraid that there's going to be more to come. They've already given us, this. It's not a matter of if, but when the next pandemic comes. Ooh, here comes the boogeyman. There's some real bad stuff out there. Like the Black Plague that happened in the Dark Ages in Europe was no joke. It killed like massive amounts of the population. Like that wasn't like a conspiracy. It actually happened. But like I say, I drive it into the ground. They never let a good crisis go to waste. And they're kind of it seems like they're waiting for the next bad thing to happen so they can grab more control, and so they can do these things to have them in place. Back to your original point though, I've asked the same question too, because I want somebody to give me a good answer, and I can't find one yet, other than borderline or full out conspiracy. What makes the COVID vaccine so much different than, like, say, polio, or anything like that? As far as why is it causing so much fear and resistance, and do you have any insight on that? What's different about this?
I don't, unless the vaccine is doing things to people that they're not telling us. Like what is
Okay.
like we don't know what's in the vaccine. I mean, I guess people do. I don't personally. Most people probably don't. Most people that get vaccinated probably don't know what's in it, but they're getting it. But what's it doing? Like what is things that are in that vaccine? What is it doing? If you give it to kids, can it make kids sterile? Like, is this whole thing like a thinning of the herd situation? Are we doing this all on purpose to thin the herd? Like what, you know what I'm saying? Like, not just looking at thinning the herd now, but look at thinning the herd in the future. Is it possible that we're, at the risk of our kids not being able to have kids and things like that?
Right.
Yeah. And that's conspiracy minded. I get it, but that's the only thing I can really think of on why it's so important right now.
Well, basically what you're saying is the conspiracies are what's driving the resistance.
Yeah.
But, didn't they have those same questions about the polio vaccine or when the flu vaccine first came out? I mean, weren't people like skeptical and say, no, you're not going to mandate my kids get this shot before they go to school. I'm a red-blooded American. It's like, how dare you infringe upon my freedoms and the freedoms of my children? It's like, was that resistance not there back then? And what makes now so much different?
I mean, what if it's the time between when the vaccine was created versus when they started mandating that kids had to have it? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if the COVID vaccine's here now, but it takes 15 years before they say, okay, your kids have to have the COVID vaccine to go to school? Versus if the vaccine just got here now and then next year they're saying your kid has to have the COVID vaccine or they can't go to school. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe I guess if it's proven its use, I guess it's had enough time to prove itself that it does help. I guess I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because like the polio vaccine, I don't know when that was created. We could look that up, I'm sure, but when that was created versus when they actually mandated it to say your kids have to have it to go to school or something like that.
So I did some research on the polio vaccine. It's been a while ago now, and I don't have the sources in front of me, I'm going to butcher the numbers, so I'm not going to be specific. But from what I remember is that there was some resistance. But, on top of that, there was a much greater percentage of adverse reactions to children. Like there was a bunch of them that died or otherwise. Here's the thing though, that was from like a bad batch. It wasn't from the actual vaccine itself. But who's to say a bad batch? I mean, that kind of crap happens, right? Who knows if any vaccine or any medicine whatsoever come from a bad batch, it's going to put you on your back and maybe even kill you. Yeah. So the polio vaccine had that. I think one of the major obvious differences is the proliferation of information, the media, and also the polarization of the parties. Everything is politicized now, and it's crazy because I never would have thought, and I've said this before, never would have thought a pandemic could actually be politicized the way that it is. Like this side thinks exactly one way, and this side thinks exactly the opposite, just based off of what the other side thinks. You already can predict that. It's like that with everything. It's like that with natural disasters. It's like that with healthcare. Everything is politicized. I think that's a big thing too. And so most of the skeptics, I would say, at least the majority that I know or have heard of, are at least center to right, if not right leaning. And I'm not saying right wing nuts. That's not what I'm talking about. There are conspiracy theorists and nut jobs out there. I'm not talking about QAnon or anything like that. I'm talking about just people who have conservative type of values versus people who have liberal values. There's a stark line there, and that's another thing. But I also, there's this basic mistrust of the government. There was so much flip-flopping by Fauci, and Biden just seems so incompetent. Like anybody who says otherwise, I mean, come on. I think a lot of people, he's not Trump, basically, right? He's not Trump. And so that's what they wanted. I understand that. I get that. I do. But that still doesn't cover up all these other things that are happening, all these other facts. I appreciate your right to vote for someone who's not Trump. That's fine. I can see why, but the fact that it's not Trump doesn't, it doesn't do away with the other issues that we're having, that this is some very serious times that we're living in. There's the mistrust is, I think it's warranted.
I mean, no matter what you think of Biden, no matter what you think of Trump, there's like an overwhelming wonder for me on what things would look like right now if Trump would have gotten elected for another term and not Biden.
How dare you? How dare you? You're going to get so much hate for that statement.
I said it's an overwhelming wonder. Not that I think that things would be better or worse. I just wonder, just because regardless of if you agree with how Trump did things, what he did, how he did, whatever, he was still a big, I put my foot down on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, am I wrong that he hasn't come out and said very much about how things are being handled right now? Like Trump's not in the media much, really, right? I mean, I know he is right now. They canceled him. Yeah, but it's just, I don't know, man. It's weird.
They canceled him, man. They canceled a former president. It to some regard, I understand, but this was a president of the United States. He was duly elected. So at any rate, look, I am, even though it may not sound like it when we're in this discussion, these are just opinions and their thoughts. I do go down some rabbit holes like this, but I am looking for a silver lining through all this. I'm looking for the best possible thing to do. I'm looking for myself to try to overcome suspicion, but I'm not going to turn a blind eye to obvious, facts. I'm not going to politicize this in my mind. I do not belong to either side of the aisle. I refuse to, because I think they both suck. They're sucking us on both sides of the aisle, and I am not going to let myself fall into that. I used to kind of like the game of politics, not that I was a politician ever, just it's a game, it's a sport for everybody, mm-hmm. especially when you get into debate, and people like to debate back and forth. I'm not a team player when it comes to that, but I do want the best for people,
right?
I want the best for our country, for our economy. And I hate the thought that people are trying to collapse what we have to try and make something new, which gets into a lot of other topics. I'm not going to do it, but like the Great Reset it's a conference. Is something that they had that's very interesting, and it goes right along with Bill Gates. Another, I think it was a Russell Brand interview where Bill Gates is trying to take over the world food supply through seeds. He's trademarking seeds and is going to sell them back to the farmers. It's crazy, a lot of things that are going on. There was a certain amount of farmers in India who killed themselves because they can't farm anymore, because apparently it ties right back to Bill Gates. Huh. And I'm not trying to pick on him specifically. There's some power hungry people out there, these billionaire Dr. Evil wannabes who think that they need to, they have all the money in the world. So now they just want to consume all the power. And I am through all this looking for a silver lining. Like I want things to be okay. I'd rather talk about smart toilets, and that be the only thing that is pertinent or compelling to speak of. But in the meantime, like I said, these are just opinions and ideas. I don't even necessarily per se ascribe to all of the stuff that comes out of my mouth. I think it's interesting to talk about. I think it's very, very important that we think about things.
Yeah.
Hence the Cerebral Entertainment podcast.
If nothing else, you're entertained. If nothing else,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that we're missing.
I think at least 47% of our show is questioning things we don't understand and not getting an answer.
Well, my hope is that we start getting some more engagement and people start giving us some answers.
Right.
That is my ultimate goal, because we do have some answers for some things, but it's personalized. And I think that's what's so important. I think it's good to have like personal experience from our perspective and from others. I want others, our listeners and other people to engage on these topics because I want to know some of what you all think, about these things. It's important that we share ideas, and even if we don't necessarily come to a consensus, it gives us a little more depth of thought so that we can make informed decisions. And I hope that I don't want to be confusing. I don't want to confuse people any further.
Right.
But I also don't want to be blind sheep led to bad things because of those Dr. Evils in the world, because they're out there, I believe.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
At any rate, man, let's cap this off. It's episode 202 in the books.
Yeah, man. Pretty crazy, right?
So,
totally. When I made the post about our 200th episode, I felt compelled to put on there, which I'm sure you read, that said, 200 episodes in the grand scheme of things doesn't seem like it's really that much. Like if you look at a Joe Rogan, who's at probably like 1,500 episodes or more, those guys have been doing it a lot longer than us. And if you figure that we've averaged one episode per week for 4 years now, that's about what you got to put in 4 years of work to get to 200 episodes. And like I said, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem like it's that much, but it really is. And we've put a crap load of work into the show and hoping that, we're intriguing people with what we're talking about, or at least making people laugh at the stupid stuff we talk about. And, I just hope to continue on with what we've got going. And, we're always kind of shifting our game plan a little bit on, because we have life things that happen and, that kind of move things in directions we didn't expect, but we seem to fight through them every time. So I'm hoping that continues to happen too.
Absolutely. I saw a post by, I think it was Gary V, right? And he said something to the extent of, it takes so long to really like get to do something really well, and in the meantime, like you're going to make mistakes and you're going to change things up. And sometimes it's going to suck, which I don't know if we've ever sucked, but I do kind of look at us as getting to a point to where I'm going to say something like, now watch from here on, because this is what's up right here. Now watch it from here on and kind of forget about all the rest of it. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun and we've grown through it and learned a lot by podcasting these 202 episodes now. And I wouldn't trade any of them. I think that they've all been beneficial and been part of our journey, part of our learning process. But I am looking forward to polishing that process and putting out some good content.
Just always remember that we should be at 204, but there's 2 episodes in there.
Dude, why do you keep bringing up old stuff, man?
What was the first one, like number 11?
I think so. What happened with that one? Was that one that I erased on accident or didn't hit record or something on the 11?
No, we recorded. I don't remember what happened. It was just a file. Like you had the file, but you couldn't open it for some reason afterwards.
Yeah, I think because with Audacity, you have to keep the Audacity file and the what's it called, the information file, whatever.
Oh yeah, you might have lost the information file or whatever.
Well, you can't move them. They have to be in the same folder, the same spot.
Right.
And I think I didn't know that yet. I learned it then. So that was the thing.
I mean, the episode couldn't have been great. It was number 11.
I bet you that was probably our best one yet.
Probably so, yeah. And then the second one was one where we were just in a hurry to get out of the place we were at, and you accidentally deleted the episode instead of the pre-show warm-up. Yeah,
I kept the sound check. And when I hit save, I wondered why it saved so quickly. I was like, oh crap, that was too quick. I knew right then. I said, this is not good. Something bad just transpired. But in all honesty, there were more than that. We've had a couple of throwaway episodes too.
Yeah.
We had that one that we did at that spot that I can't remember on, I think it was Cherokee Street.
Foam. Is that what it was called? Foam?
Yep, that's right. It was with Foam. I can't remember the name of that group that we talked to. It was just 2 people out of that group. unfortunately, I can't remember their names. Lovely people, but we were in this room. It sounded like a freaking wind tunnel.
Yeah.
This loud AC, you couldn't even hear our talking. It was terrible. So we had to throw that one away. And I want to say we've had at least one or two more that we couldn't use.
Well, we had another one that was an AC problem too, with John Beebe and Chris Denman and
that's right.
JB Anderson. Yep.
That was a throwaway because of
yeah.
That was a shame, because that was otherwise a nice spot.
Yeah.
The AC was overbearing.
Yeah. People just don't realize how much AC sucks when it comes to recording audio.
I know there's only so much you can do in post-production, man.
Right.
Can't work miracles, people.
Right. But hey, let me
live and learn.
Let me plug what we want to do real quick before we get out of here. As far as our shirts go. So if anybody remembers, was it earlier this year or was it last year? We revised our shirts, our CEP shirts with the brain and iPod, to say support local business. And we took all of the profits from those shirts that we made, which we made a pretty good chunk, and gave them to Jeff Britton over at Exit 6 Pub and Brewery in Cottleville. And he turned those into gift cards and gave them to first responders and frontline people of the pandemic and stuff, which I thought was really cool. We're not really, making money off of shirts is cool, but we're not really, we want, we just like seeing people in our shirts and in our merchandise and stuff. So what we want to do is the same thing, but just with any business. Like if somebody can come to us with a game plan, or just, kind of tell us, hey, this is the logo we want to put on your shirt, or this is the organization we want to put on your shirt. And, if we need to change a couple of things around on the shirt, we're fine to do that. We kind of want to do the same thing again. We want to get with an organization that we believe in and that we like the things they're doing in the community, and to where all of our profits that we make off the shirts from the promotion and stuff goes directly to that organization. So if you're listening to this and you or any of your friends or family or anybody are in an organization that you believe in, hit us up, let us know. We'll come up with some kind of a game plan, and we'll change our shirts to fit whatever the organization is, and try to make some money for that organization.
Yeah. And this is, like you mentioned, it helps us to get the word out about the podcast. But more importantly, it supports whatever organization wants to get their message out there too, and kind of collaborate on that. And, if it were just about us making t-shirt money, which we don't, even, with our regular t-shirts that just have, one of our shows from the network on it, we don't make a lot of money from those. What we do make, we goes back into.
Yeah, and it's not very much, because we've purposely dropped the prices on our shirts to where it's cheaper for people to buy.
Right.
When a standard shirt would be $25-$30, we may put it on there for 18 or something, or 20, just, to where if it's $2 and that $2 builds up, and then we throw that back into buying something for the show or something like that. But it takes a long time. We're not in it for the money. We're just in it we like to see people in our merchandise. But we've got more than one logo now too. So and we've also got multiple types of merchandise. We've got koozies, we've got mugs, we've got shirts and hoodies and tanks and all those kinds of things too. So, people have a variety to choose from if they choose to, connect with us and try to make something cool.
Yeah. If we wanted to just sell a bunch of t-shirts, I'm sure we could come up with a scheme to do that. We could put naked ladies on it, or naked men, or whatever is your fancy, and just put the CEP on there, and bam, you're selling shirts. It's never been our goal. Our goal is just to get, we like you said, we like seeing people in the CEP gear. It makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside, but it also is kind of a, we just like, we just like to know that there are supporters out there, and we're more than willing to support, people too with their merchandise. But with this new idea, even though it's not completely realized yet, because we don't know, it's going to take some collaboration with the organization to figure out what that design would look like. We just know to be the CEP in with, that organization that chooses to collaborate. It is our efforts though to do something meaningful. You know, this podcast, we've always wanted, we have some fun. We have some shows where it's goofier than other times, you know, but we do want it to be meaningful. And this is what this collaboration will hopefully yield, is some more meaning to what we're doing, because that also gives us that warm, fuzzy feeling of accomplishment and doing something good. So
yeah,
if you're out there and that sounds interesting.
It's not just our promotion. Like I said, we're willing to add logos onto the shirts for the organizations too. So, you know, that is promo for them and social media promotion. If we are able to do this with somebody, we're going to blast the social medias with this promotion too. And like I said, none of the profits will go to us. It will go to that organization. So you're basically getting free promotion from us and all of the profits from these shirts. We won't make a dime. So I'm hoping some people connect with us. I'm hoping we can do something with this. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, based off of the success we had with the small business support small business shirts, that was last year in the during the consequences of the quarantine is when that happened, because small businesses were suffering.
Right.
And so we wanted to help out however we could. And then we got to do that through Exit 6 Pub and Brewery. And then we were also able to extend that through Jeff Britton to the first responders, which was also huge. That's definitely warm and fuzzy worthy. So
absolutely.
Looking forward to that, and looking forward to talking with some more of these small businesses coming up real soon. And stay tuned, yo.
Absolutely.
Good stuff coming your way.
Yep.
All right. See ya.
So, yep.